This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
Everybody goes through crisis, loss, brokenness. There are times in our lives when we are so overwhelmed with the emotional or physical pain that it just doesn't seem worth it to go on. However, in spite of what it may seem like at the time, the truth of the matter is that God does have a plan and a purpose in your life. And that remarkable truth is backed up in His Word over and over again. The problem is that it's just such a paradox. If God has a purpose and a plan for your life, and you're so devastated and you don't think you're worth anything to anybody, how do you justify the two? How do you bring the two back together again? Here's something you need to know. And I want to say this right up front for those of you who are regulars in this class. You're going to hear some things that you've heard me say several times probably, because they all fit into this whole series of how to pick up the pieces. So some of it needs to be reinforced in your life perhaps. Some of it will be fresh and new. And some of it will be completely new. But please forgive me for some of the repetition. But it's so important. And the first point that I want to make that you've heard me say over and over and over again is that God thinks eternally. God thinks eternally. He sees life as eternal. He sees His plans as eternal. He even sees you as eternal. You are created as an eternal being. He created you that way. He created you to be eternal. Nobody on earth lives, dies, and then that's it. It's all over with. God didn't create life that way. God created life to be eternal. And so you are an eternal being. God created you that way, and your life is eternal. God designed you to be eternal. Now, certainly not the body that you're living in. It's the you that's inside of that body that is eternal. And God has eternal plans that reach far beyond this dark time in your life. This time, this crisis, this nighttime that you're going through in your life, God has plans that extend way, way beyond that darkness in your life. God is in the process of preparing you, if you will, for eternity. Now, it doesn't make sense to think that this is the way it's going to be for the rest of your life, because it isn't. It does make sense to realize that if we're going to live for eternity, that we're going to have some things that we have to do for eternity. I mean, do you think God created the vastness of space with all of its millions of galaxies and solar systems without a plan and a purpose? And doesn't it make sense that the intricacies of life factor into that? If God has this enormous plan that goes on forever and ever for eternity, as far as the mind can possibly think, doesn't it make sense that the things that we are going through somehow or other factor into eternity? God hasn't left anything to chance. He has, by design, left many things to choice, but He has not left anything to chance. And here's some good news. God knew about this issue in your life way before you did. In fact, He knew about it before He even created life. Psalm 139 says, "My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." God knew about this situation in your life way, way, way before the earth was even created. In the prophet Jeremiah's case, God made it very clear that before we're born, He has designs on our life. He said to Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." So if God has a plan and a purpose for your life, this thing that has devastated your life is not a surprise to Him. God isn't up in heaven going, boy, how are we going to deal with this one? Nor, and this is so important to understand, Nor does this crisis that you're going through in your life change God's goal for your life. It doesn't. It doesn't change God's plan for your life. Ephesians 1:4 says that He planned you before He created the earth. For He chose us in Him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in His sight. He had plans, designs for your life. Now, if God planned you before the beginning of the earth and knew what was going to happen in your life before you were even born, He's not going to let the devastation in your life change His plans.
Here